It's a good world. Good world going bad.
Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Rent is absolutely exploding as investors continue to get squeezed from quantitative tightening, and they are passing that expense on to renters. Now, the good news is incentives to rent are absolutely exploding, but the question is how much longer will investors be able to survive through all of this quantitative tightening before we start getting additional relief as consumer? And that's exactly what we're going to take a look at today. And another question to all this is, when will rent start to go down? It's super frustrating. I get it. And we're going to start with accessing a Zillow article to help answer these questions. Now, the first article today is the rental market report. So this is the once a month report from Zillow on what's going on with the rental market. You guys, honestly, I'm shocked. I did not think rent would go up and go up at this trajectory when we have so much building going on for multifamily. So this is going to go over those differences. The rental landscape is experiencing subtle yet significant shifts. National rent growth remains stable, but a closer look shows notable differences between markets and rental types. Now, according to Zillow, the typical rent rose 0.6% month over month in March to 1983. This, they say, subtle climb was only slightly below the pre-pandemic seasonal average of 0.7%. Continuing the back to normal trends, rents are now 3.6% higher than a year ago. And I get it, right? It's, the rent growth is going back to normal. But the problem is we had 2 years of rent growth that was in the double digits. Meanwhile, real median income and real household income went down. So you can't have a situation to where, prices skyrocket, where at the same time income goes down. Let's read a little bit more now about the differences on what's going on with single family homes versus multifamily rent growth. And this is pretty interesting, you guys. So single family versus multifamily. March witnessed the typical rent for single family homes rising 0.7%. Now that's month over month to 2183. This sector's resilience with a 37.5% increase since the pandemic's onset. And that's why I'm saying that's not sustainable. Now, if that number was maybe, say, 15%, maybe it would be different. But it's not 15%. It's 37.5%. Okay. Now let's read a few of these bullet points. Single family rents fell, however, on a monthly basis in only 2 of the 50 largest metro areas. The largest monthly drops in single family rents were surprisingly in Pittsburgh at 0.6%. And also very interesting, Salt Lake City, Utah at 0.3%. Now the smallest monthly increases, also very interesting, was Sacramento at 0.2%, Kansas City at 0.2%, and also Virginia Beach at 0.4%. Now single family rents are up from a year ago in 49 of the 50 largest metro areas. Not sure how that's possible when the two are, anyway. Annual single family rent increases were highest in Cleveland. Geez, sorry, Cleveland, you guys are in bad shape. And there's an overwhelming amount of speculation there, but Cleveland's at 9.4%, you guys. Richmond's at 8.1%. St. Louis, 7.6%. That's crazy annual growth. Birmingham, 7.5%. No idea how that's possible. Cincinnati at 7.5%. Now let's look at multifamily. Multifamily rents fell on a monthly basis in 6 versus 2 of the 50 largest metro areas. The largest monthly drops in multifamily rents were in Oklahoma City, interesting, at 0.6%, Memphis at 0.4%, Cleveland at 0.2%, and Columbus at negative 0.1%, followed by Austin as well at negative 0.1%. Now, also interesting, multifamily rents rose year over year in 38 versus 49 of the 50 largest metro areas. Annual multifamily rent increases were the highest in Providence at 8.5%, Louisville at 6.5%, Hartford at 6.3%, Boston at 6.1%, and Buffalo at 5.9%. Now, this is a chart here, guys, that's basically going to show you the differences in multifamily versus single family. So you can see the differences, the gap in single family versus multifamily. So it's not good, right? Single family homes it's not good. It's killing purchasers. Obviously, apartments are different, and you can see the annual change right here at 4.9 versus 2.7. So it's very, very interesting. Now, I believe a big reason for that is as you can see here from Fred, we just have so many apartments, or rather structures with 5 units or more being built. I mean, we've never had in the history of the United States anywhere near the level of apartment building going on right now. And this is active construction, what you guys see here. So look at this chart, you guys. And this goes back all the way to the 1970s, actually back to January of 1970. So never ever, we got close in 1973, but still, you guys, whopping amount sitting at 966,000 units under construction as of February of 2024. Now, this is also interesting. You see the rent dynamics shift based on where it's at in the country. So this is very good. Again, speculation. All right. Are investors going to cause the housing market crash? You know, a lot of people say that's what happened in the GFC. They say that investor speculation was actually worse than subprime loans. Investor speculation right now and investor demand right now is like nothing we've ever seen. Let me read a little bit of the regional information now. Now, regional rent dynamics, a closer look. While overall trends point towards mild to modest growth, the story varies significantly at the metro level. Among the 50 largest metro areas, again, Pittsburgh stood out as the sole area to see decrease in typical rents at 0.2% from February to March. In contrast, areas such as Washington, D.C., the New York City metro area, and San Jose each recorded a significant 1% increase in rents on a month-over-month basis. That's crazy. I've been to Washington, D.C. I don't know how people can afford there. I mean, they have like no land and super high prices. Really crazy, you guys. Now, anyways, moving on, rent growth trends vary widely on the annual basis as well. Typical rents in Providence were 8.2% higher year over year. Louisville rents were up 6.9% year over year. That is awful. Okay, now take a look at this map here. So this map is telling us what areas have the highest year over year rent growth. And I want you guys to pay attention that the highest rent growth is really on the East Coast right here. So it's really on the East Coast right here and a little bit on the West Coast. So you guys see that? So it's a little bit on the West Coast, concentrated highly on the East Coast, a little bit on the North. Now take a look at this, guys. This is a map of investor cap rates. So first of all, take a look at the West Coast. This is basically showing that the cap rates on the West Coast are some of the lowest in the nation. So investors have some of the lowest cap rates, you guys can see here, but yet rent growth is some of the highest in the nation. And to me, what this is spelling is investors are starting to feel squeezed. They're passing that on to consumers. And so far, consumers are willing to pay that, at least for now, even though, again, roughly 8 million Americans are behind on the rent. Again, you guys, 8 million Americans, I'll get through that data. And also you can kind of see that on the East Coast. East Coast, you can see about purple, so that's on the lower end of the cap rate. Very interesting, the North, however. The North, however, has a high cap rate and high annual rent growth, so it's probably a lot of investing going on in the North. But again, East Coast, West Coast, those investors are probably getting squeezed the most, as well as Florida. Although Florida, you can see here, is a little bit in the middle. Now let's move on to incentives, because this is a great thing, because again, even though they don't have price declines, they're going to do everything they can before they start cutting the prices. So even though you get 2 months free, they're still going to say you're going to pay the same rent as everyone else. You're just going to only pay 10 months of it versus 12 months. So is it really the same price? No, it's not the same price. But let's read this. An increase in deal sweeteners. As the market adapts, so too do the strategies of landlords and property managers. In March, 33% of Zillow's rental listings advertised a concession like free months of rent or free parking, which is good in high concentration areas like deep metro areas, like downtown deep metro areas. The 0.9% increase rise in concessions in February to March is a slight upswing since the rate concessions stabilized last year. The constant use of strategic method to attract renters, especially in regions with lots of choices due to the recent surge in new apartment construction, suggest continued softness in asking rents in the future. Some property managers may choose a concession rather than fully drop the monthly asking rent price. And again, I'm telling you guys, it's a gimmick. So on one hand, we do have rent going up, which is on its own is shocking. But on the other hand, that's being masked by these incentives, similar to what we see going on with new construction. Again, you guys, they don't want to show us what's really going on. I mean, this entire time of quantitative tightening, all of the data has been manipulated. And again, and I understand, you guys, I'm cautious, but the bulls only look at certain things so that you spend your money. At least what we're talking about is save your money, be cautious, love your family, increase your purchasing power. They're just saying buy or you're a fool. That's what they tell us. If we don't buy, we're a fool. But the reality is that's how we get ahead. I can guarantee you the rich normally, they don't get rich by spending their money foolishly. Would you agree? Comment below. Let me know. Do the rich get rich by spending their money foolishly? I don't think so. Now let's go into how the rental market is actually falling apart. Vacancy rates show a stable market. However, and this is according to Zillow, again, I'm not saying it's stable, but zooming in shows different storylines. The nationwide rental vacancy rate was 6.6% as of Q4 of 2023, which was the most recent data available. For context, pre-pandemic, the average vacancy rate at the time of year was the same. So we're back at the vacancy rate of pre-pandemic. Housing permits were on the rise, and experts were finally calling a full recovery from the great financial crisis as far as housing was concerned. Now, rent affordability is a major force at play within the rental market, again, because wages did not go up. It wouldn't be an issue if everyone's wages went up at the same pace as rent, which didn't happen. Okay, they just made us pay for everything. We got nothing back but the bill. The typical asking rent in the US reached 29.1% of median household income in March. That's insane. That's what it should be. It should be less than that to have a mortgage. That's crazy that it's that high, you guys. And actually, a mortgage is even higher. Now, this is closing in on a common rule of thumb to avoid spending more than 1/3 of your household income on fixed expenses like rent. The necessary income to afford rent in the US is now at $79,000 to afford rent, you guys. That's more than 6% higher than the typical household actually makes. And they're talking about rent. They are not talking about owning. I'm telling you guys what's happening. Investors are getting squeezed. It's only going to be a matter of time before we see more and more investors become net sellers, file bankruptcy, or distressed sellers that bring down the comps and value of subdivisions. When investors start to panic and they start to liquidate because they don't want to deal with all this rent anymore because they can't afford to, they will liquidate, and they will liquidate their homes for under market, and that will help to collapse the market. Or at the very least, we can all agree it will put pressure on prices to go down. Now, let me show you what's going on right now. And this is without the increased interest rates that happened today, by the way. The interest rates right now have exploded. The 10-year as of the recording of this is over 4.5%, with interest rates on 30-year fixed rate mortgages well over 7%. Nevertheless, you guys, according to this report from LendingTree, and this is a little bit older report, things are harder right now. 8 million people ages 18 or older in the US aren't caught up on rent payments. Put another way, that is 13.17% of the nation's adult renters live in a household that charges them rent are behind on a payment. You guys, 13% of renters are behind on a payment as of this, and that was last year. 13%. Domino effect, doom loop. You guys starting to get this. Now, nationwide, 3.5% of adults or 5.81% of renters live in a household that doesn't pay rent. Very, very interesting. Also, what's interesting is this old report from last year that goes into the speculation. And again, you guys, that was the biggest problem. One of the major problems, at the very least, during the GFC was investor speculation. Over 5 million semi-vacant single-family homes in America are being used exclusively for short-term rentals or for vacation homes. Now, we also see that in the San Diego metro area, which is one of the most unaffordable metro areas in the nation. 75,000 homes in San Diego County are vacant. And so what I think is happening right now is consumers, quite frankly, aren't able to keep up with the wages. And yes, so far, that hasn't spiraled out of control, which kind of makes sense considering 2 years ago, the government just printed us money. As consumers, they've never done that before. So I think we will continue to see distress for investors. We will continue to see less investing in the housing market so long as interest rates stay high. Believe it or not, you guys, we want interest rates to stay high like this. What we don't want is interest rates to be cut too soon. We need to get inventory back to the market. We're going to see inventory come back to the market probably at the same pace as existing homes, because again, as people don't purchase homes, they will start renting. But again, they have to afford to do that. And so I think the bigger thing here is you're going to see people living with family or living with friends to help them afford to live to save money and to get ahead. At least, you guys, that's what I help people are doing. I hope people are changing their lifestyles right now to get ahead of this. All of us still have enough time to do that. Now, in other words, guys, change your spending habits. Be careful how you're spending money. Work on your purchasing power. Keep your eyes open and chill a little bit. Love some people. And if you're out there investing in real estate, you guys already know I wish you luck and I hope you win.